DJI Mini 2 promises professional-level 4K aerial footage in a drone that weighs less than a smartphone. Either we have reached the point where anyone can get cinematic shots out of their backpack, or this is just another flying gadget with great marketing and disappointing reality. On paper it sounds wild. 249 grams, up to 31 minutes of flight time, 10-kilometer HD video transmission, level 5 wind resistance, 4K 30 frames per second with a 3-axis stabilized gimbal. Sounds like a tiny drone with big drone ambitions. But here is the thing. Specs on a product page do not always match real skies and real wind. I actually bought the Mini 2 myself and flew it for 3 weeks in different locations to see what is real and what is fluff. I've put the direct link to check current pricing in the description. But before you click anything, let me show you what I discovered after 3 weeks of testing. The DJI Mini 2 is marketed as the entry-level drone that basically anyone can fly while still getting footage that looks ready for YouTube or even client work. Here is what DJI says this thing will do for you. Ultra lightweight at under 249 g, so you can skip a lot of registration hassle in many countries. Up to 31 minutes of flight on a single battery. 4K 30 FPS video with a 3-axis gimbal and 12-megapixel stills, including RAW. AcuSync 2.0 transmission with up to 10 km range and strong anti-interference. Sounds criminally good for something that fits in a coat pocket, right? Pretty bold claims for a so-called beginner drone. But here is where things get interesting. When you stop reading the box and actually start flying, a few of those promises bend quite a bit. Reality check. First, that 31-minute battery claim. They say up to 31 minutes in ideal conditions. What you actually get in the real world is closer to 22 to 25 minutes of safe, practical flight time before you really should land. Here is why. The spec is measured hovering in windless conditions, no aggressive flying, and running the battery basically to empty. In my tests, shooting 4K, moving around, dealing with light wind, I repeatedly landed with 20% left at around the 22 to 24 minute mark. Could you squeeze 30 minutes? Maybe if you baby it in perfect conditions, but for normal users, that number is marketing, not reality. Next, the range. They love to shout 10 km transmission distance. Sounds insane for such a tiny drone. But let us be real here. In most countries, you are legally required to keep this drone within visual line of sight. That is usually a few hundred meters, not 10 kilometers. In my tests, the signal was rock solid out to 800 meters to 1 kilometer in a semi-urban area with some interference. Past that, I started to see brief warnings and a little pixelation. So yes, AcuSync 2.0 is way better than Wi-Fi-based drones. But the 10 km number is a best case, open field, no interference fantasy. Not something you will actually use unless you are trying to lose your drone and your license. They also hint at pro-level video because it can shoot 4K 30 and 100 Mbps. What you actually get is very usable, sharp footage, but it is still coming off a 1/2.3-inch sensor. Here is the plot twist. Small sensor equals more noise and less dynamic range. In daylight, it looks fantastic for the size and price. But once you get close to sunset or into shadowy areas, details start to smear, noise creeps in, and highlights blow out faster than on something like an Air 2S with a 1-inch sensor. So 4K does not automatically mean cinema. It means lots of pixels from a very small piece of glass. Here is another big one. Ease of use. They sell it like anyone can just take it out of the box and become a drone pilot. Reality check. The Mini 2 is surprisingly stable and forgiving, but it has no obstacle avoidance sensors except downward for landing. That means if you fly sideways into a tree, the drone is not going to save you. In my testing, the GPS lock and hover accuracy were excellent, even in moderate wind, but you still have to fly responsibly. The marketing makes it sound almost foolproof. It is not. It is easy if you respect it. It is also easy to crash if you get cocky. Now let us dig into a few key areas. Camera and image quality. Here is what nobody tells you. The real strength of the Mini 2 is not just 4K. It is the combination of 4K, 100 Mbps bitrate, and a very stable gimbal in such a tiny body. In good light, my footage looked shockingly close to much more expensive drones once you color correct it. Still photos in RAW give you some room to recover highlights and shadows, but not as much as a larger sensor drone. I compared it side by side with a phone on a gimbal. The Mini 2 absolutely destroys a phone for aerial perspective, but low light noise was clearly worse than something like an Air 2S or Mavic 3. So yes, 4K is real, but do not expect miracle night footage. Battery life and rain. What the marketing does not mention is how quickly batteries drain in wind. DJI claims level 5 wind resistance up to about 38 km per hour. In my windier tests, I saw flight times drop closer to 18 to 20 minutes. Range-wise, the signal stability was excellent up to around 1 km in mixed environments. I dug into multiple review sites and forums, and most real users report the same. Outstanding connection for a mini drone, but that 10 km number is a lab fantasy. Build quality and portability. The drone feels light but not cheap. The arms lock firmly, the gimbal is surprisingly robust, and the controller feels like a shrunken version of the bigger DJI remotes. Here is what nobody tells you. At 249G, it is also easier to push around in gusts. It holds its own, but when a crosswind hits, you see it work harder than heavier drones. On the plus side, it fits into almost any bag, and that matters more than you think. The best drone is the one you actually bring. App and flying experience. Using DJI Fly, the setup is straightforward. Firmware updates are painless, and quickshot modes like Droney and Circle worked perfectly in my tests. There is no sign of dropshipping here. This is pure DJI. The red flag is not the product. It is some sketchy third-party Amazon listings bundling random accessories with unclear warranty. Check the seller before you buy. Most highly rated reviews look legit with detailed photos and videos, not the usual copy-paste spam. So, verdict time. Should you buy the DJI Mini 2? My take, recommended with context. If you can grab it at a solid discount below the newer Mini series. It is still one of the best starter drones for people who care about video quality, but do not want to register a heavier drone or spend big money. You get rock-solid connection, very good 4K in daylight, and true throw-it-in-your-bag portability. The downsides: no obstacle avoidance, average low-light performance, and real-world battery life that is a good 20 to 25 minutes, not the dreamy 31. At its usual mid-range price, it is great value for beginners and casual creators. Just do not treat the marketing numbers like law. Fly smart, and it will absolutely deliver. Stay savage out there. If this review saved you from wasting money or helped you find something actually worth buying, I've put the link to check current pricing and read more reviews in the description. And hey, if you do decide to buy through my link, it helps fund these investigations without costing you extra. Let me know in the comments if you want me to compare the Mini 2 against the newer Mini 3 or the Air 2S, because that battle gets interesting fast. Hit like, subscribe if you enjoy no-nonsense gear breakdowns, and I will see you in the next one. This is your channel name, cutting through the marketing so you do not have to.